In life, you win some, you lose some. And if you're like me, you just win all the time. In this video, we're going to talk about my, top 5. This is in no particular order. My biggest winners from the NFL offseason in 2022. I got a fire list loaded up for you guys. These teams just, all they do is win, to quote the great DJ Khaled. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this video and talk about the biggest winners from the NFL offseason in 2022. First team catching dubs this offseason. I got the New York Football Giants, the boys in blue. I just think in order to win in the NFL, there comes a point where you got to be out with the old, in with the new, get rid of everything that's not working, and start throwing things and see what sticks. And that's exactly what the Giants did this offseason. They got rid of their general manager, got a new GM in Joe Shane, new head coach Brian Daboll that brought over from the Buffalo Bills, new defensive coordinator in Wink Martindale, previously with the Baltimore Ravens, and new offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, previously with the Kansas City Chiefs. I just think the Giants are doing everything right, man, and I think that they're finally turning a new leaf in this organization. They've been pathetic and disgraceful the past God knows how long. I want to say 10 years, but it hasn't been that long. I think it's been since 2016. I think they did some things very well this offseason. And I also do think going into year one of this rebuild, they're a lot farther along than the mainstream media wants to give them credit for. I think they have pieces on offense and defense that can carry over if everything goes right. And I don't think they're starting from square one, essentially. I don't think they don't have a blank slate, so to speak. I think Daniel Jones could definitely be a guy for the next year. Maybe he is the franchise quarterback. I think this kid, given a fair shot, could be a franchise quarterback. That might be a hot take, but I don't really think so. I think if you've paid attention long enough to the Giants and have watched more than just what you see on Red Zone, Daniel Jones could definitely play. And a lot of people are starting to come out and support that take, some being Chris Sims and others that I've seen on the television. But some notable draft selections the Giants had. They had 2 first-round picks in 2022, courtesy of trading back from their 11th spot last year, and they were able to land the 5th and 7th overall picks, which they selected Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. Kayvon Thibodeau definitely going to provide a much-needed pass rush for this team, and Evan Neal is going to be that second franchise tackle that this team has needed. This team's offensive line has just been atrocious. It's been no higher than, I want to say 30th in the past 2 years. They were okay in 2019. I think PFF had them ranked 17th in 2019. And this year they're at 17th again. So we'll see what Daniel Jones can do with an average offensive line. They also went ahead and got themselves in a healthy cap situation going into 2023. They weren't big spenders. They cleared up the cap. They moved off some pieces from the Gettleman regime. And I think they have the money to make the moves they need to make to be competitive in 2023, which I think they will be. I think they're farther along than people realize. I think, like I said previously, they have pieces. They're not just starting with a blank slate, as in they have nothing. They have a very good youthful core on both sides of the ball, excluding Daniel Jones. If you don't think he's the guy, if you do think he's the guy, you might have a quarterback on your hands, which is the hardest position to fill in football. And I just think that this team won this offseason, being that they're poised to build a team appropriately in the modern NFL, moving past 2022 and going into 2023. Going straight to the other side of the arena, I have the New York Jets. I think the Jets, you can make a very strong argument, had the best draft of all the teams in 2022. Some notable draft selections they made were Sauce Gardner with the 5th overall pick, Garrett Wilson, arguably the best wide receiver prospect in the 2022 class. They also went ahead and got a top 10 talent in Jermaine Johnson at the back end of the first, and they traded up to get the RB1 in Breece Hall. I think that this team, Joe Douglas is doing everything right. He has done everything right since they've hired him. He has done so much for this franchise to build it. Like, this was a team starting from square one. They didn't have a quarterback. They didn't have anything. They didn't have an offensive line. They don't have perimeter weapons. They didn't have a running back. They didn't have a secondary. They didn't have anything. But they bolstered their offensive line in 2022. Their offensive line now ranks 13th according to PFF. They acquired Laken Tomlinson, a left guard from the San Francisco 49ers. They moved Mekhi Becton over to right tackle, which I think is a great move. I have been very critical. If you've been following this channel since its conception, I've been very critical of Mekhi Becton. Not because I don't think he's good. I just don't think he can stay healthy. I just think that someone who can't complete a combine workout without getting hurt, that's a huge red flag. And they still took him wherever they took him. I think inside the top 10 in 2020. They also brought in a versatile prospect on the offensive line in Max Mitchell. He is listed as a tackle, but he can play guard. They drafted him number 111th overall. And then to talk about the defensive side of the ball briefly, they've completely rebuilt the secondary. They signed DJ Reed and Jordan Whitehead. I think that this team's secondary is looking really good, and I think that their defensive line has a ton of potential, being that their big free agency acquisition in 2021 didn't get to play, as in Carl Lawson. He never got to see a snap because he tore his Achilles in training camp. I think this team, why I think they're still kind of in where when I do my power rankings, they'll be on the lower end of the spectrum, is because I think the jury's still out on can Robert Saleh coach, and is Zach Wilson the guy. I'm not listing Zach Wilson as a bust by any means, and I've been very critical of Zach Wilson. Very critical. Even though he is a winner, banging moms and stuff. But anyway, the point remains, Joe Douglas has done everything right to fix his franchise. Now it's a question of, did he hire the right coach and did he draft the right quarterback? And I think one of my hesitancies with the Jets specifically is every team that is not the Jets has on this list has either brought in or has offensive-minded head coaches. Robert Saleh, clearly a defensive-minded coach. I think the Jets are going to run the ball a lot more, and they're going to be way better at it than they were in 2021. But the Jets definitely were big winners. Now we're going to start talking about some of the big dogs. Some of the big dogs that made some splashes in 2022 or became big dogs because of the splashes they made in 2022. And I'm going to start with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're arguably the most improved team, top to bottom, on both sides of the ball from a year ago. Their offensive line ranks, according to PFF, as the number one unit in football. They also traded for A.J. Brown and signed Zach Pascal, who was a receiver for the Colts. Hasn't done much in his NFL career, but he's a big-bodied receiver. Maybe he helps Jalen Hurts out as he develops as a passer. And on defense, they went ahead and signed Hassan Reddick, who came over from the Panthers. He had the 5th most sacks in football last year. They brought in linebacker Kazir White, defensive tackle Wren, and I think most notably, besides Hassan Reddick, they brought in cornerback James Bradbury. And why I say most notably is now the Eagles have 2 cornerback ones in their secondary. They have Darius Slay, who had a breakout year, or not, I don't want to say breakout year, but kind of revived his career last year with the Eagles, and they went ahead and brought in James Bradbury, who's been a pillar for the New York Giants secondary the past 2 years. Some notable draft picks they brought in. Nakobe Dean, who was a first round talent who fell to the 3rd because of injury concerns. But if Dean can play and he stays healthy, he is a coast-to-coast player, man. Like, he could do it all. He's great in the run game, great instincts, just a solid addition to this linebacking core, which I think probably was one of the biggest weaknesses on the Eagles defensive unit. I think they really struggled getting to the quarterback. They had, I think, they were one of the lowest teams in the league when it came to getting sacks. And they also went ahead and drafted Jordan Davis. I think if you pair up Jordan Davis, Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, it's going to be really hard to run on the Eagles, and it's going to be really hard to pass on the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to win a lot of games on defense. I think this defensive unit, is going to be a top unit in the league. Where I worry for the Eagles is with Jalen Hurts. Like, can he take that step as a passer? We've seen him run. We've seen his athleticism. He's reportedly pound for pound one of the strongest quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't know how much stock you want to put in that, but this team can run the ball. Now it's a matter of, can they pass it? They did go ahead and trade for A.J. Brown, like I mentioned earlier. That was definitely their best offseason move. Getting Jalen Hurts another weapon to pair up with Devontae Smith. Because Devontae Smith, man, like, his rookie year could not have gone better. Like, I don't think you could have asked for a better season out added Devontae Smith, and they just struggled because I think Jalen Hurts, I'm very in the middle of, can this kid take the step as a passer? If he can, he's going to be a very good quarterback in the league for years and years to come. But if he can't, the Eagles have also put themselves in a position by trading back where they have 2 first-round picks in 2023. Maybe they move for a quarterback who can win games. Maybe this is a team that nobody's talking about that should go out and get Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think it makes sense for the Jets or the Giants, being that the Jets just drafted Zach Wilson a year ago, and it doesn't make sense for the Giants to go and pay a 32-year-old on a rebuilding team that's in year 1 of a rebuild. But for the Eagles, who have built a roster and have weapons like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, it makes total sense. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is probably the best game manager in all of the NFL. And, like, you could say he's not as talented as Kirk Cousins. He's not as talented as these other game managers. But Jimmy Garoppolo wins games, man. And you could argue all day, is that scheme? Because I would hear that argument out to the end. But I think the Eagles, if I have them pegged to win the NFC East, and I'm gonna go through record predictions and division rankings in another video. But I really do think that this is a team where, like, if they don't do it this year, if they don't go to the NFC chip this year, they are going to go next year. I think they've just built a team where it's now a very appealing landing spot. Like, if they were somehow trade for Aaron Rodgers, even though he just signed that massive contract, if they were to go out and get Kirk Cousins or get Jimmy Garoppolo or get someone who could pass the ball, the Eagles are going to be a very, very good team in 2022 and definitely in 2023. Now, I want to talk about this team for a second, and that is the Miami Dolphins. Talk about if we're going to find out if they're winners or not. We are going to find out if the Miami Dolphins are winners or not. Nobody made bigger splashes in the offseason than the Miami Dolphins. It ain't even close. It's not even close, man. They went out, got a new head coach. They got an offensive coach, Mike McDaniels, from the 49ers. And we'll see if he's legit, man. I have my concerns. I think he's kind of an oddball. I don't know how good he's going to be in the league as a head coach, but we'll find out. I mean, this is the year we're going to find out. And you want to talk about an overhaul? This team overhauled their entire offense. The only person that is still there is Tua. Tua Tagovailoa, their quarterback. And we're going to find out if Tua is legit this year. I'm in the middle on him. He had a pretty crappy situation last year. I really do give props to Tua and how he handled everything. How he handled the Deshaun Watson rumors, how he handled Brian Flores, how he handled their owner. Like, he handled everything like a champ. He took everything on the chin, and he went out there and balled. Well, I don't want to say balled, but he went out there and played every single week and really didn't skip a beat. He is someone who, can he? There are questions. Can he throw the deep ball? Is he better than just a check down machine? Is he better than, can this offense, can they unlock what Tua could do? Can he throw the intermediate style passes? Can he throw the deep ball, which is the biggest question? And they definitely surrounded him with the pieces to find out the answers to those questions. Some notable skill position players they've acquired. Tyreek Hill, the person that you're looking at on the screen. Tyreek Hill, definitely the biggest move in all of free agency was the Miami Dolphins trading, 5 draft picks for Tyreek Hill. They also went out and signed Cedric Wilson, arguably the best 3 in the league. Let me not get ahead of myself. A top 10 3 in the league in terms of wide receivers, and they went out and got Preston Williams. And this is a team, too, where they're not going to rely on Tua to pass all the time. You don't go out and sign 3 running backs and expect your quarterback to throw 40 times a game. That's just not what they're planning on doing. They went out and brought in Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, who has familiarity with Mike McDaniels and his system. And they went out and got Sony Michel to be that short yardage goal line back, and he's not that good at that. But the Eagles did rank 30th in rushing yards per game, and that's not going to repeat this year. No matter if Tua poops the bed, no matter if Tua is a gigantic loser, if Mike McDaniels is a gigantic loser, they're going to be able to run the ball. They also brought in Teddy Bridgewater, who I think is an insurance policy. If Tua can't do it, I think this roster is good enough where they'll win games even if Tua is kind of crap. And Teddy Bridgewater could definitely win more games than Tua if he struggles. If Tua takes a step, then Tua's the guy. But if Tua struggles, Teddy Bridgewater is going to be QB1 for the Miami Dolphins, and he could win games with this roster. They also brought in on their offensive line probably the most coveted free agent on all of the free agency market, and that's Teron Armstead, a tackle for the New Orleans Saints. And they brought in Connor Williams, a guard. this team ranked 26th in total yards per game, and that's just not going to repeat. Like, this offense is going to take a step. These players are talented enough to outperform what their scheme is, being Jalen Waddle, a healthy Raheem Mostert, definitely Tyreek Hill. And now you got a franchise tackle in Teron Armstead. My question is, do you put Armstead on the right side since Tua is a lefty? Like, do you put him as the blindside blocker, or do you keep him in his traditional position as left tackle? Point remains, he's an upgrade over whoever you're going to put there. Don't matter. I think they brought in, what's his face? Not Walker Little, because he's on the Jaguars. Ian Leichenberg. I think that's his name. I know it's definitely Leichenberg. And you want to see if he could take the step as a tackle. He could be a franchise tackle, because then you got 2 franchise tackle. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they extended Xavier Howard, they restructured Byron Jones, and they signed Keon Croston. So this secondary has taken a huge step, which was an elite unit last year. We'll see how they kind of work how their defense works with Brian Flores being gone. But they also did bring in Melvin Ingram. They re-signed Emmanuel Ogbah, and they picked up the 5th-year option on Christian Wilkins. I think if anybody dethrones the Bills in the division, it's the Dolphins. I don't think they're going to do it because Josh Allen's unreal. But they're miles and light years above the Jets, and I don't want to say miles above the Patriots, because I will never disrespect Bill Belichick like that. Like, I just can't do it, because everybody wants to hate on Bill every single year, and he comes out and does better than whatever the media predicts or indicates. Like, it doesn't matter. He's still Bill Belichick. He's still the best head coach of all time. But the Dolphins definitely are in that competing for that second spot in the division. They'll probably make the wild card. The AFC is so loaded that they might not make the wild card, but I definitely think there is a compelling argument and a compelling case for this team to make the wild card and potentially make some noise in the playoffs. And the number one, I said these are in no particular order, but I did have to put this team at number 1. The number 1 winners from the NFL offseason are the Denver Broncos, and it's not even close. I think it's more of a question of, because we're thinking about with the Dolphins, like, can they make the playoffs? We're thinking about the Eagles, can they make some noise in the playoffs, because they made the playoffs last year? The Jets were a poverty franchise that they're doing everything right. They're taking all the right steps. The Giants are a poverty franchise that's doing everything right. But in terms of making the Super Bowl, you have to talk, or who's going to be in the Super Bowl, you have to talk about the Denver Broncos. Like, you cannot ignore them or slight them in any way. I think they did the right move by getting rid of Vic Fangio and bringing in Nathaniel Hackett. He was the offensive coordinator in Green Bay, and we've seen what he could do with Aaron Rodgers. Like, Russell Wilson is not Aaron Rodgers, don't get what I'm saying, but he could definitely get the most out of Russell Wilson, and every report indicates that this is a team that is looking to build this offense and structure this offense around Russell Wilson, which is something that never happened in Seattle. It was always run the ball, win on defense, and Russ, go save us in the fourth quarter. That's not going to be the case in Denver this year. They're going to be in position to drive games. They're going to be in position to set the pace for games. I think they had a very good offseason. They re-signed, they signed defensive end Randy Gregory from the Cowboys, and they re-signed Melvin Gordon, who I think is going to take the backseat to Javonte this year. Javonte Williams was my RB1 coming out last year. I think he's insane talent, one of the best running backs in the NFL. We'll see in next year when he's got the training wheels off. There's no Melvin Gordon, but he is one of the best running backs in the NFL. I don't think that's a hot take either. But why I say Denver is definitely in the Super Bowl conversation is they were an elite team that was ready to win last year. Their defense last year was elite. They ranked 3rd in points against per game, 8th in total yards allowed per game, 8th in passing yards per game. And I think their inability to get to quarterback, they were middle of the pack in stopping the run and getting to the quarterback in takeaways and sacks and interceptions. I think that takes a huge step forward with Randy Gregory in the fold now. He was electric on the Cowboys and was a huge part of that defense in Dallas. On offense, they ranked 23rd in points scored per game, 20th in total yards per game, and 20th in passing yards per game. That all changes with Russell Wilson. And don't forget, they missed Jerry Jeudy for, I think, 7 games. And they ranked 13th in rushing yards per game when everybody knew they were running the ball. So they have an elite run game that's untapped potential because teams were game planning of like, all right, well, we know Teddy Bridgewater's not going to throw the ball that much, or he's not going to be an efficient passer. Now they have to account for Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, who's a year removed from the ACL tear, and Tim Patrick, who was a very underrated wide receiver last year, and they signed him to a 4-year extension. And now you have Javonte, who's going to take bulk of the carries and probably be the guy in Denver. And Melvin Gordon has a very good change of pace back and a very good red zone running back. Melvin Gordon, one thing is that man scores touchdowns, and it don't matter if he is senile with Alzheimer's. Like, that guy's going to get into the end zone. Like, he did it all last year. But the Broncos are definitely my number one winner from the offseason in 2022. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. If it's your first time to the channel, thanks for tuning in. Check out our fantasy content. We're doing fantasy content like all the time. We did a fantasy video every single day last week. I'm going to try to switch that up and kind of gear it to more niche fantasy content and gear up more towards NFL content. And we'll obviously be putting out fantasy stuff during the season of like waiver wire ads, stuff like that. But we're going to start doing a ton of more. I got my preseason power rankings done. I can't wait to see how they get reacted to. I kind of want to put this video out, and I'm going to put the opposite of this video out in my biggest losers of the NFL offseason in 2022. Just so you guys can gauge where I'm at, and then we're going to go into the power rankings. And then that's all going to change once the season starts. We'll do weekly power rankings. Things are going to move. But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in to the channel. Thanks for checking me out. This is the Pylon Cam. If you like what you heard, please like, comment, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. Helps out a lot. Comment who you think is a big winner from this NFL offseason. We're only talking about winners, so only comment winners, and you can comment your losers in the next video. But yeah, guys, this is my 2022 NFL biggest winners from the 2022 offseason, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!